Hello Pokemon trainers and welcome back to the series where I, Elite Trainer Alolan, draw every single Gen 1 Pokemon in a new type form, Alolan form, or whatever you wanna call it. This is part 4, so we're starting on number 56, which is Mankey. And Mankey's randomized type is Ghost. So here's what I drew. Its hands and feet are now floating in the air. Kind of inspired by Haunter, which if you look at it has floating hands. They're a dark grey color to make them blend in with the darkness, because ghosts tend to be out during the night and not during the day. Just like its regular evolution, when it evolves into Primeape, it's basically just bigger and angrier, and its hands are more claw-like, so it can scratch you up. Next evolution line is Growlithe, and the random type is Grass. I did a typical grass type thing and just kind of added plants to its body. Instead of fluffy hair, it now has some kind of plant-like moss or leaves, I'm not sure what it is. But it has flowers and it's cute. And the same goes for Arcanine. Except its head is covered in many leaves and just not one. They're wild and live in the jungle, like tigers. And now we have number 60 in the Pokédex, Poliwrath. And the random type is Fairy. My fairy type Poliwrath isn't too different in shape, but its little tail is now heart-shaped, and its body is purple with white spots. And the pattern on its belly is different, because it doesn't have the typical spiral pattern. And similarly, when it evolves, Poliwrath has a big heart shape on its belly, but there's no spiral on it. I actually picked the color purple for a reason. The purple is associated with royalty, kinda like Nidoking. So it evolves into Poliwrath, and has a little crown on his head, because it's the Frog Prince. And the Frog Prince is a fairy tale, and now it's fairy type. I think you all can see the connection I made between the frog and a prince and the fairy type and the tail. You all get it. Now it's time for some magic tricks. Abracadabra, Alakazam! And the random type is Ground. I think it's the first time I've gotten Ground type. And I had a really great idea for it. It doesn't show up in Abra yet, cause you know Abra's powers aren't very strong. It was supposed to look sleepy, but I think it just looks like it's face palming. And it's probably face palming cause I couldn't draw it looking sleepy. It's like a paradox. What came first? The bad drawing or the face palming? Nobody knows. But the real fun starts when it evolves into Kadabra. The way Kadabra uses its ground powers is the same way as it would use its psychic powers. But obviously instead of psychic powers, it's just sand. And let me tell you where I got the idea. Because my favorite character back when I watched Naruto was Gaara, who uses sand powers. So that's what I imagine my Abra line being like, but we haven't even gotten to Alakazam yet, so let's evolve now. Here we are, look at that sand power. So cool. This would look so cool in-game, or the anime, or whatever. I used to think it would look super cool if a Pokemon could like use some kind of bending power for sand. I don't know if they bend sand in Avatar because I haven't really watched it, but I imagine it would be cool if they do. So if you watch Avatar, you can tell me in the comments if there are sand bending or not, because I genuinely have no idea, I haven't watched it. But we're here to talk about Pokemon, so let's move on to number 66. It's the Macho line. And I got normal type. That's an interesting one. So here's my Machop. It doesn't like fighting, so instead it's like super nice and friendly. It's not very strong, but it's always doing its best to help everyone. And of course it stays the same when it evolves. It's just like a super friendly Pokemon who isn't very strong, but it's nice and it does its best at all times. And Machamp uses his forearms to help people instead of just training. They like to carry around useful items for Pokemon and people, like for example berries. These three Pokemon basically have the same anatomy as their regular original counterparts, but the bodies are more like what the usual Macho line would be if they just didn't like to train, because that's what they do all the time to get stronger. So if they just didn't want to, they'd get a bit skinnier, not as buff. But they still like to help people, just not with the heavy lifting. And the next Pokemon is Bellsprout, and the type is Bug. So instead of being a plant, it's kinda a worm. It's like a worm plant really. It crawls on its belly. Don't ask what Weeping Bell is, cause I don't know. And it really just gets weirder when it evolves into Victor Bell. I don't know what happened. They started out nice as some kind of worm caterpillar, and and now they're just weird things. I don't know. The next Pokemon line is the last one of today, but it's a cool one. It's Tentacool. That was a pun. Nobody liked it, let's move on. I got Fairy type. So let's turn the Tentacool into Tentacute. I tried to give it a more translucent jellyfish look. A lot of real-world jellyfish look really pretty, and almost magical even. I tried to make Tentacool look kinda like an evil fairy. Like a beautiful evil fairy, not like the mean ugly ones that Disney would make. And they only live in the deepest parts of the oceans, and humans never really see them. And now we're done with all Pokemon for today. Thank you guys a lot for watching, I'm really grateful that you do. Please tell me which one was your favorite this time. And keep being awesome. Bye!